Chris,
Heath.
welcome to this new generation.
A new generation? Tell me more.
Well, don't you think? Like, there's a new, hot new game. There's a new, I wouldn't call it a console, but game platform that's going to be coming out. I feel like we're, if not in the new generation, it's like starting.
I'll tell you what, Heath. I'm glad we chose this moment in time to start a video game-focused podcast because these are exciting times we're living in. We're on the cusp of change here, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. But I'm sure we're going to get into that during the course of this episode.
Yes, this episode 12.
Episode 12 of Mobius Tubes, being recorded to you on March 21st, 2019.
Yay.
You can reach out to us on Gmail by writing to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com with your burning questions, or you could tweet at us at mobiustubespod on Twitter.
Oh, shoot. I haven't followed the Twitter yet. I don't think.
Actually, I think you might be our only follower.
Okay. Well, I haven't interacted with it yet, I don't think.
True. Very true.
I got to get on that.
I'm going to jump right in here with my one and only correction for the week.
Sure.
And it's a small one. During our coverage of Evee last episode, you kind of blew my mind when you told me that Shovel Knight and Isaac from The Binding of Isaac were guest characters in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle.
I thought they were.
And upon hearing this, I had to see it for myself, so I looked up some gameplay, and those two guys are indeed guest characters, but in this niche fighting game that I had never heard of that's actually called Blade Strangers.
Oh, I confused BlazBlue with Blade Strangers.
Similar titles, I'll give you that.
Okay.
But I see you could get confused since BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle is a crossover fighting game. They would seem right at home in there, but they're actually in a different game entirely.
Don't they just look the same too? Aren't they anime fighters?
It's definitely a similar aesthetic, for sure.
Okay.
But that's all we have for corrections, just in case we hype some of you up for new DLC coming to BlazBlue. Crush your dreams now. Heath,
Hey.
what have you been playing this past couple of weeks?
All right. I was going to do a quick look, like the ones that you've been doing recently, but I didn't have time for it. I installed Cities Skylines on my desktop, which I got it when it was, because Cities Skylines is one of the only games you can get to play on a MacBook for Steam. So I got that with that intention, but never got to really play it because the graphic capabilities of a MacBook aren't sufficient for Cities Skylines or for what you'd want. So I put it on my desktop, but I haven't opened it up yet because I've been playing this other game that I will go into next week. I've only played a little bit of it, and so I haven't gotten to a good talking point yet. So we'll hold off on that. Those two games have been, with the exception of Cities Skylines, that the game I've been playing took up most of the free time that I had. So Red Dead was on the back burner. You know what game I wanted to get that I saw was on sale was Frostpunk. Remember that game? It was like 40% off on Steam. I was gonna jump at that, but I haven't yet.
One of the cool strategy sim games from last year. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that was unintentional.
Oh, was it? Oh, well.
However, I'm almost surprised that you considered picking it up now that we're just now getting out of winter. That's kind of one of the last settings I'd want to spend more time in a video game.
Yeah, it's weird timing, but the seasons of sales is more important than the actual seasons.
Got it.
Did you play a game this week?
Yes, I've brought two to the table this week. Which would you rather hear about first? An open world game that I've already discussed on the show, but I have a significant update to bring and talk about, or my experience with my first Pokemon game.
Oh, okay. I eagerly await the Pokemon Chris deep dive, but let's do what podcasts should do and hit them with a previously listened open world experience.
I've played a whole lot more of Assassin's Creed Origins.
Okay.
And contrary to what I stated on an earlier episode, I actually have indeed finished the game. I beat the main quest line. And this game, I like it a whole bunch. It is the epitome of what I would call gaming comfort food. And what I mean by that is whether I'm hopping in for 15 to 20 minutes or a long session of multiple hours, I'm certain that I'm going to accomplish something and feel good about making substantial progress. Because this game knocks a compelling progression system out of the park. There's so many different areas you can stand to improve yourself, whether it's borrowing the crafting from other Ubisoft games like Far Cry, where you're collecting components from animals and materials throughout your entire journey and constantly combining them to give yourself very meaningful isn't the right word.
Useful.
It's very useful but incremental upgrades to things like the number of arrows you can store in your quiver, or your base melee damage, or your health. Things you definitely want to have higher. It definitely pulls you in with your favorite gameplay mechanic, big numbers go up.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of that going on. If you haven't run across any materials in a while, there's no worry. There's plenty of other things you could be upgrading, like the fact that everything you do in the game gives you experience, so you're leveling up, getting ability points to pump into those skill trees the game has. This game's loot system is pretty compelling. Like, I'm excited every time I get a piece of new gear and I see that its overall quality level is just a little bit higher than something I already have equipped, because it makes a big difference. And if that's not all, there's tons and tons of things to check off your to-do list on this big open world map, whether it's finding a new synchronization point for you to climb up, which A, awards you experience, B, unlocks a new fast travel location for you, and C, actually increases the perception of your eagle Senu, so he can more easily tag enemies and locate treasures and objectives for you. And speaking of your eagle Senu, there's plenty of games, almost every game out there really these days has some sort of what I'm going to call quote-unquote gamer vision, something that'll just highlight everything in the environment that is of use to you. But Senu, using her, your eagle, to highlight things, it's just a lot more fun to suddenly, at a moment's notice, be able to zoom up high into the sky and get a literal eagle's view of the landscape and tag things that way, instead of just using a Far Cry camera you whip out from your pocket and just zoom in from ground level. I like the increased elevation.
Okay.
A few more things.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I could use a question.
You mentioned fast travel in this game. Is it bad that I miss fast travel? Because to my knowledge, there isn't fast travel in Red Dead Redemption 2. There's the cinematic camera that you can enable while you're on horseback, and your horse will just follow the main path, but that's not necessarily fast. It's automated, which is good in case I gotta go get my chicken out of the oven and have the game still moving along, whereas I would have to just stay in my seat otherwise. But fast travel in general, how do you feel about it?
So fast travel in general, used for quickly and instantly traversing those big open world games, so you can go to a previous location you've already been to instantly, which encourages you to branch out and find new areas so that you can immediately return to them at a moment's notice. How do I like it? It's obviously a very nice quality of life thing to have. However, I have heard kind of a criticism leveled at it, and that is that for a developer to justify making a big open world for you to live in and traverse and explore, they should make the traversal itself fun enough that you don't feel compelled to use a fast travel system. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because no matter how much fun it is to fly through an open world like, say, the traversal system in Sunset Overdrive, which is pretty fun, and I think I haven't played it yet, but Marvel's Spider-Man, the PS4 exclusive that came out last year, that supposedly has very fun web swinging that takes you across the world. And something I've heard people say is they ignored the fast travel system because it was just that much fun to move around organically.
Right.
But that's not the case in Assassin's Creed Origins. Traversing on foot or on horseback is pretty mundane, so the fast travel system is appreciated.
Gotcha. Okay, I am of the same opinion.
Very good. Back to how I called it comfort food. I'm playing it on normal difficulty, and what I will say is it's a very forgiving, easy time, but they've balanced the difficulty just right that I have to remain alert and engaged the whole time. Otherwise, I'll get beat up pretty bad. But just maintaining that baseline level of engagement is enough to make sure I never get overly frustrated or overly challenged, which you don't want if you're just dipping into something for, how I said earlier, comfort food. It's something to pass the time and remain entertained without necessarily having it be the world's most challenging experience.
Is that how you used to play Assassin's Creed games? In the occasional, like, just 15-minute jump in, and then the occasional long, like, multiple hour
binge session?
Yeah.
I think it's different with this one. I feel like I would pick a time frame that was more in the middle when playing previous Assassin's Creed games.
Okay, because I would play like half of the game one day and then half of the game the next. Every Assassin's Creed game I've played, I've just blitzed through the missions. I couldn't get it through them fast enough. I don't know why I did that, but I just remember Assassin's Creed 3. You're hunting down like the 5 bad guys and then your dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like when I first sat down to play it, by the time I put it down, I had already killed 3 of those guys, and it was like 2 to go.
So you knocked these out very fast, just binging them.
Yeah, same thing with like Revelations. You know how you sort of work your way up into like the royal family with the like Suleiman and folks like that, which is at least like 10 hours in or something. That was my stopping point for that game.
Very good.
But
you wouldn't be able to binge Assassin's Creed Origins in the same way. It is too lengthy of a game. I think you'd get burned out if you approached it with that gaming method.
That's fair.
As far as the game's narrative went, it never really crescendoed for me to make me really care about it. It is a subtle origin story, which I kind of appreciated. You could jump into this having never played another Assassin's Creed game and not feel alienated. However, knowing what I know from playing the previous games, it kind of gives you some explanations without being ham-fisted about it. I won't give you specifics for fear of spoilers, but I'll leave it at that. Okay. It's a subtle origin story, and I liked how they executed on it.
I still can't believe that Odyssey comes before Origins in the timeline.
You're really hung up on that.
It's so... oh my gosh.
But this game succeeded in keeping me coming back. It actually has incorporated elements of games as a service game. And what I mean by that is... gas. It has daily quests in it that are on a timer. You only have a 24-hour period to do them. And you can only do one per day, so you can't do a whole bunch of these at once. But as a reward for doing your daily quest and logging in each day, in addition to giving you experience like any other quest, it gives you a guaranteed, like super rare or legendary loot drop for completing your daily. So that's awfully compelling for me to complete because I stated earlier how exciting it is to get better gear in this game.
Is this the first time we're mentioning games as a service?
No, we've touched on them.
We may have brought up other games as a service games, but I don't think have we said gas before?
I know you did a couple episodes back. It was my first time hearing that acronym, so it really stood out to me.
Okay, yeah, because gas is like taking over, and I'm certain that people are gonna wonder like where it came from and what games were like before gas. Yeah, I really think we need to devote like defining it. So what's so good okay, so to the moms out there, we used to play Call of Duty, which was like a first person shooter multiplayer team deathmatch looking thing. But now we play games as a services, and that gives us loot quests. How do you define it to the moms?
Yeah, I was going to kind of ask you the same thing. How do you define a game as a service game? Is it just something that is highly repeatable and encourages you to keep coming back? Is it as simple as that?
I think the way I would explain it is, in other games like Call of Duty, you would shoot the gun to kill the guy to level up to prestige to level up again. In games as a service games, you shoot the gun to get the loot, or to earn the in-game currency, to buy the thing you want, to complete the challenges that will satisfy the battle pass, that will help you eclipse other players in time for the second season of the game's life cycle.
That's quite the amalgamation of words you just threw out onto the podcast.
But clearly, what the thing I said didn't really make sense, but it's clear to me that games as a service games are not launched and forgotten like games used to be. They're constantly updating with more with like balance changes and like valuable add-ons that players are willing to invest their time and potentially their money, whereas they did not previously.
They're like a living organism that is constantly evolving and fluid. They're not static for long, at least.
Right.
So wrapping up on my Assassin's Creed Origins time, I said I've brought attention to the fact that a alarming percentage of the side quests are go rescue this kidnapped person.
Yeah.
And by the end, I think it's started to parody itself on that. And I knew that was the case when I encountered someone who requested I go rescue their friend, the giant crocodile from the enemy Roman camp.
What?
So now we're talking about kidnapped giant predator animals here.
Oh, the historical accuracy.
Yeah. But I've had a great time with it. I finished the main quest. It actually had 2 fairly substantial pieces of DLC released for it, and the first of which is called The Hidden Ones. I've played it. It's more or less a continuation of where the main story leaves off. Definitely not going to sell you on the game if you didn't already like it. It's more of the same. And the other DLC that released for AC Origins, a little bit bigger, called Curse of the Pharaohs. This one I'm in the middle of right now, have not finished it. It takes the game to a more fantastical setting. So turning what has up until this point been almost a straight historical game into a bit more of a fantasy-like thing with curses and mummies, that kind of thing.
Horsemen?
And horsemen?
Are there like flame horses and things like that?
There's definitely guys on fire, yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Go on.
So this DLC, it feels like the development team, they weren't looking to reinvent the wheel or anything, but they decided this is where they were going to really have some fun creating some interesting new content. There's some beautiful new landscapes in this expansion that you probably wouldn't be able to see in normal, historically accurate Egypt. So after playing the game for, I think it's been over 60 hours at this point.
Wow.
I'm happy to see some new environments, some new settings, and I'll probably have it wrapped up within the next couple days.
So if I've never played an Assassin's Creed game, I should start with this one?
That is an interesting question. I guess it would depend on whether or not you intend to go back and play the old ones.
Because have you heard the ruckus about Devil May Cry 5?
What ruckus are you alluding to?
That it is the best game, it's like the most fun game out for character action fans. If you have any interest in the character action genre, DMC5 is a must play, even if you're not a fan of the series quite yet. Although Wooly from Castle Super Beast, despite this glowing recommendation, said that you should start with DMC3 and then play DMC5 just to like appreciate how far the game goes in the series. Would you say that's something similar for Assassin's Creed?
In the case of Devil May Cry, it sounds like since 5 knocked it out of the park so hard, it might make, if you were to play that one first and then go back, it could ruin the experience of the older games for you, potentially. Yeah. In the case of Assassin's Creed, since the older games are so very different from this one, I don't think playing Origins first would necessarily ruin the old ones for you. Just know that since they are so different, you could very much so really like the Origins formula and dislike traditional AC game formula, or vice versa. So they are not representative of each other.
Okay. They might as well be different franchises.
Effectively, yeah.
Like mainline Far Cry and then Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Even those, I would say, are more similar than the departure AC Origins is from the other Assassin's Creed games.
Okay, sure.
But this has me super excited to play Odyssey.
Hey, Chris,
I'll
one
be interested
second. I'm
to
getting
see.
a phone call.
Oh. This is Chris here. Heath has abandoned me for a phone call. I really thought that was going to be a bit with an update on the Apex Legends player count, but it appears to not be the case. Unless he's really committed to the bit and has left me alone for minutes at a time, holding my breath, waiting to see what is going to happen. This may or may not make it into the podcast. If it does, I hope at least one of you out there finds it slightly amusing.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I'm back for real.
That was all I had to say about Assassin's Creed Origins, which brings us to the part you actually care about, Heath.
The news?
No, Pokemon Let's Go
Oh,
Evee.
yay! Yeah. Okay, this is... All right, folks who like Pokemon, friggin' take a seat because you're about to get disrespected by Chris's just perfectly nascent opinions, having played Let's Go Evee as his first one. And he's going to have... I'm certain you're going to... If you have any grievances with the game, they're going to be hilarious. I already know. So take it away. All right. People who are crazy about Pokemon, you know that they're going to make their children, like I'm talking infants. Have you ever seen these videos where they lay out 3 stuffed animals, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charmander, and they put the baby in the middle, and they make the baby, whichever one the baby reaches for first, that's like your first starter, because your first starter is meaningful to some people. My first starter was Torchic. Chris, you played Let's Go Evee, so your first starter is Evee. Although, do they put the starters in that game?
Right. So the decision to choose a starter in game has been removed from the game. I guess the analogous decision would be just choosing which copy of Let's Go you're buying, Pikachu or Eevee.
Yeah, so already your Pokemon bond is just
tarnished,
whack because you lack the camaraderie with this first Pokemon you choose. Because it's like a huge
my starter
decision
Pokemon
when
decision
you're 12.
happened on Amazon.com when I picked the copy of the game.
Right. Just add to shopping cart.
So this is a Pokemon game, and I've been wondering for decades of my life what it's actually like to play one of these. And The opening hours were rough, I'm going to say.
Ooh.
They left a negative impression, and
The grind.
I'm going to hit you with a quick anecdote of how the game actually opens before you even make it to the main menu, the splash screen. You're first greeted with a screen asking you which controller method you'd like to use to control the game. And I have it in docked mode, so I'm playing on my nice monitor. So I reach for my fancy Switch Pro controller, ready to dive in and catch some Pokemon. And this controller screen indicates to me that the Switch Pro controller is not valid for playing in docked mode.
Because you
I can't use
gotta
it.
throw it at them.
I know the Pro controller has some sort of motion sensing capabilities, but maybe it's not sufficient. So anyway, I reach for my cool Joy-Con grip and slot the two Joy-Cons in, ready to play with some more accurate motion controls, I suppose.
And Game Freak
And
is
then-
like, no.
Yes, Game Freak is like, no. You have one too many Joy-Cons, sir. You must limit yourself to using one.
What do you think? You're using some dual-wield Akimbo Desert Eagles on Rust? No, we get one ball.
Okay, so I have to use one. I think that's kind of a strange decision. And then I start thinking to myself as I play further and further in, maybe this was an intentional decision by the designers because they knew this game was not engaging enough to fully hold your entire attention, and they wanted you to leave one hand free to distract yourself with anything else.
With your phone, maybe?
Yeah. Anyway, the opening 2 hours, I was not enjoying myself, and I'll tell you why. I had something misrepresented to me, which I have actually come around on the game and I'm enjoying it at this point. But that first 2 hours misled me because you receive your starter right away, in my case, Evee. And I go into my first few battles, and I've heard it said that Pokemon Let's Go Evee is not a particularly challenging game. But the first few battles of this game and its opening hours, I was just completely on autopilot. Evee was just shredding through opposing Pokemon trainers.
Oh yeah, you just you hit them with a tail whip or a tackle, and they go down.
Yeah, I was autopilot mashing quick attack, and within 1 to 2 turns, the enemy of Pokemon would be eviscerated. No need to switch up my Pokemon, no need to look at effectiveness charts. It was just all Evee all the way. I might as well didn't need a party, I just needed Evee. And when I finally got to some longer, more drawn out fights, because initially most trainers you fight, you come in with your roster of 6 Pokemon, and they only have 1 equipped. Is that the case in the older games as well, Heath?
Okay, when you hit Viridian Forest, am I right?
I have, yes.
Okay, so the trainers in Viridian Forest are like bug catchers. Some of them will have 3 Caterpies. Some of them will have a Weedle and a Kakuna. And then some of them will have 1 Magikarp, just one big boy. And that's how it balances it. They'll have many weak guys or 1 strong guy for the first. You only hit the players with the opponents with 6 Pokemon at the end.
I see. That came as a surprise to me. Going on, when I got to the part where I finally had to use guys other than Evee, at this point I learned that the rest of my Pokemon in my party, who are not my starter, they're a lot more frail. They're a lot weaker.
Well, yeah.
They don't last as long.
They need experience.
Right. Your whole party does receive experience after a fight. So they have been leveling up, maybe slightly slower.
That's unique to this game then. Usually the only the ones that kill the other guys get the experience.
Got it. In this game, guys who participate in the fight get an experience bonus, but everyone receives experience to some extent.
That makes sense.
So it's keeping your whole party more or less at the same level. And even when you catch a Pokemon, which no fight occurs during that, you just throw a Pokeball with motion controls and hope you get your timing and angle correct. And actually, I kind of dig it. I'd find it probably a little tedious if I had to fight every Pokemon before trying to catch it.
Oh, well, I mean, that's every other Pokemon game.
Yeah, so maybe this one is the best in that regard for my personal taste. Anyway, this point that I've been working myself up to and have not quite committed to yet is that since I was operating under the assumption that I have this Evee Pokemon that destroys other Pokemon, and I have a full party of more Eevees that I could just call upon at any moment. But when I realized that the rest of my party that's not Evee was a lot more frail, then I realized, oh, this is a lot less of a cakewalk than I thought it was going to be. I've actually lost a battle against the second gym leader, Misty, who I have since trained more and was able to defeat, but it's like a starfish Pokemon. What's that one's name? It's
Star
purple.
You. Oh, purple
Okay,
one's
yeah.
Star Me.
Got it. With like a red ruby in the middle.
Yeah, and she hits you with the confusion stuff.
She was like blasting me with steam or something and one-shotting my poor Pokemon.
Oh, Scald, is that what it's called?
Scald, that is
Heck
the one.
yeah. That's the OP move.
But I beat Brock, I beat Misty. I'm making my way to my third gym leader. Now I have a effectiveness type chart pulled up on my phone to reference when I need to.
Dude, it's so necessary sometimes. You forget, like, is rock good against grass?
Oh, is it? You're testing me. Do I remember? I don't remember the answer to that.
Grass is good against ground. Also, rock and ground are different.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop. I guess, yeah. One thing that appealed to me are that since this is going back to its roots and it's only the original 150 Pokemon, they're also recognizable. It's cool to see these guys brought to life with like newly created 3D models and not just the old sprites from long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to be this guy who says this, but for as much as I'm enjoying the game, I haven't found a lot just yet that would make me in any way prefer this over Persona's combat system. In Persona, you're capturing and catching demons. You're leveling them up as you fight with them. I call them
Are you
demons.
saying your favorite Pokemon game is Persona 5?
That's kind of what I'm getting at here. They start as demons. Once you catch them, they become personas. You can fuse them, which I believe some Pokemon games have like a breeding system, so that's the analogous system in Persona. It helps that Persona's battle music is fire. Although
Pokemon
I have to
battle
say,
music is great.
the orchestral rendition of the Pokemon battle theme in this game is very good.
It's satisfactory, at least.
It's just that Persona's music and soundtrack in general is just top tier, so it's hard to compete. And the animations are flashier in Persona. There's more interesting systems. The exploit weaknesses to get additional turns is a system I enjoy a great deal with team-up attacks and all of that. There's guns in Persona 5, which maybe...
Wait, okay, you make the joke, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that could be coming once we get Pokemon Gun in a couple years. But, yeah.
Dude, I was so ready to get... You set it up so well.
Yeah. I'm going to keep playing it. Maybe the differences will become more apparent to me, and I will appreciate them both on their own. But for right now, give me Persona over Pokemon. I'm sorry. I probably upset many people by saying that.
I mean, no one will fault you because your first Pokemon game is Let's Go Eevee. You didn't get the full... Yeah, you're getting such a wonky, displaced affection for this series. You can't go back and play the old games because it's so hard to be patient with those. Like, the pacing is kind of slow.
I've thought of two things that I actually do appreciate in Pokemon over Persona. As my Pokemon are starting to learn new moves, I find it's a pretty difficult decision choosing which old move to forget and replace with my new one. And since Personas have a larger potential list of moves, it's not as painful of a decision. And in many cases in Persona, some moves you would learn as you go on are definitive upgrades over old moves. So of course you just replace the old move. So it's been a more brutal decision in Pokemon choosing which move to forget in place of new ones. And also, the excitement when a Pokemon evolves is not present in Persona. Evolutions are not really a thing. So the evolution system in Pokemon is a cool, exciting payoff to putting a lot of time and effort into training your Pokemon.
Oh yeah, dude, it takes so long for Magikarp to turn into Gyarados. But are you not gonna try to get that Gyarados?
We'll see.
Will we? Are you gonna keep playing? Don't get burned out on Let's Go Evee, because I still need you to at least want to pick up sword when I pick up gun, so we can battle in that.
But then I'd be bringing a sword to a gunfight.
Hey, that would actually be a pretty interesting experience. I've played Pokemon, but I've never 1v1 another person in Pokemon. I've only played against trainers, and I think the mind games would be fun to at least try once. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll see if that ever happens. That was my week in video games, Heath.
All right. Thank you for your contributions, Chris. What are you going to play next week, just so we can get that out of the way?
I don't want to be committed to something.
Okay.
I'm a free spirit here.
I will hold you to that non-commitment. The news. All right. This is we got some good news today, Chris. First order of news is, are you ready for Christmas of 2019? When you come down the stairs, there's snow outside. The cookies left for Santa have all been have one big bite in them. Come down, but what's wrong, Chris? There's nothing under the tree. There's no boxes, no presents.
Seems pretty bare.
Yeah, and you ask mom and dad. It's like, oh, Santa didn't bring any presents, and they go, no, Chris. Stadia doesn't come in boxes. Wait, what? You're what?
I was gonna say you're 22. Santa does not exist.
What? Oh, jeez. Oh no! Spoil. Okay, we got to cut that out of the episode.
Yeah, we'll remove that.
Our
younger audience,
middle school listeners. The joke I'm trying to make is Stadia doesn't come in boxes. There's no box. That's what the trailer said, right? Or the conference.
Right. So Stadia.
Google.
Which.
Cue up the Super Smash Bros. Brawl meme of like such and such character smashes his way into the battle. Like, Stadia comes in. Google. Okay.
Google joins the battle.
Yes. Google platforms its way. So the joke I made to you earlier was Skyrim is already playable on Stadia. But what is the Stadia? Am I pronouncing it right? Stadia.
I think that's right.
Stadia.
I guess we could just listen to the conference to find out definitively.
I'm not going to listen to the conference. I'm just going to read tweets during my breaks. So Stadia is the Xbox and PlayStation and Switch's competitor, produced by Google. Instead of buying a game console for your child of choice, you just give them this like subscription-y service, and all they got to do is go to their computer and go on to Stadia and just boopity boop. They're already playing Doom or
not just
Assassin's
computer.
Creed.
So Stadia is a video game streaming service that should be able to work on any device that can run a Chrome web browser. So we're talking smartphones, laptops, computers,
blood analyzers,
toasters. We are discussing Stadia without a full picture, without all the details. We don't know release yet. We don't know what the pricing is going to be, and we don't know
it's going to be console pricing. It's not going to be more or less.
What do you mean by console pricing?
Like 200 to 400.
I did not get that read at all. I see this as the Netflix of video games. You pay a monthly fee in the range of $10 to $20 and get access for the month.
Okay.
And as long as you keep paying, I'm assuming you get access to some sort of library of games that may be on some kind of rotation. Now, these are all educated guesses. They have not unveiled their exact plans. They've said that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of the games confirmed to be available with this service. In addition to Doom Eternal coming later this year.
Okay. Is the computer that is able to run Chrome sufficiently going to be able to run Doom Eternal sufficiently?
Right. It would not be under the normal circumstances we've come to expect how video games work up until now. But we are entering the video game streaming age, and we're not talking about tuning in to watch someone stream on Twitch. We're talking about the game you are playing is being rendered and run on Google's supercomputer somewhere hundreds of miles away, and they stream the image of the game you are playing to your screen so that none of the processing power is required to be in your household. It's all been taken care of at a remote location. And you just see the image and interact with that. It's like you're streaming a YouTube video, except when you click the button on your controller, you interact with that YouTube video.
It's hard to wrap your head around it.
Game streaming services already exist, the most prominent of which is probably
on Live
PlayStation Now.
Oh, okay.
Which is Sony's answer to this.
And you're saying it's going to be 10 to 20?
That's just kind of my guess. It could be more. Now, Google's a big company. They're promising that they have the technology and they found the solution to make this the highest fidelity, lowest latency streaming video game service available on the market. So if that turns out to be the case and it's true, maybe they get away with charging a premium for their service. They gave us some rough statistics on how powerful their supercomputers are going to be. They cited the number of teraflops, and apparently it's...
Explain to the kids at home what teraflops are.
I barely understand it myself. It's a measure of...
It's like functional... what is it? What does it stand for again?
It's a measure of the graphical power
floating
of a console.
Point operations per second. So the more,
thank you.
The
That's
more
some technical
flops
stuff.
you have, the better it is.
That is the case.
Okay.
And the number they cited would put Google Stadia at being a little bit better than a Xbox One X combined with the PS4 Pro.
Ooh.
You take those two, sandwich them together, and that's approximately what the Stadia is outputting. Now, that's all well and good, but the quality of the image that actually appears on your screen is going to be highly dependent on the speed of your internet connection. In the case of most people, I'm going to assume that's probably going to be your bottleneck. So Google's creating this beautiful, they say their benchline target will be a 4K resolution at 60 frames per second.
That's a good benchmark.
But how many people's internet service can stream that kind of quantity of data and keep up? 4K streaming on Netflix is pretty niche at the moment. I live in New York, which has decent internet, but for people living in the middle of the continental United States, they probably don't even have a service available that could support this.
Right.
So this isn't a service that'll be readily available for everyone right off the bat necessarily, but I'm assuming the internet infrastructure in the United States will only improve from here. So over the coming years, maybe Google Stadia becomes a more realistic service for more and more people.
Here's a question. So mom and pop have been buying their kid consoles since the early 2000s. Are they going to, is the Netflix model ingrained enough for them to just be like, oh, it's like Netflix but for games, and then make the switch? Or is Stadia just going to fly over their heads and come birthday, they're just gonna get the kid the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox something.
I think both solutions are going to coexist in harmony for a while to come. Will we get to a point where traditional consoles no longer exist and streaming is the only way to play a game? Probably not, because Netflix is not the only way to stream a TV show. You can still buy a digital copy off of Amazon or another store, right?
Yeah.
You can still consume media that way. So I believe the option to straight up buy a video game will always exist, even if, say, physical media, discs and such go away. The option to buy a game outright probably will not also cease to exist. The streaming will become more and more prevalent. I really believe that. We're at the cusp of it right now, where it's only now becoming feasible to do, and we're still ways away from mainstream adoption.
Okay.
The latency is still a problem. I haven't actually tried Stadia yet, but the fact that you pressing a button on the controller has to be sent to their server location hundreds of miles away, processed there, and then beamed back to you, that increases latency by quite a bit instead of just doing it natively in your house.
Wait, if what you said is true, could I play with you with my Stadia controller on your browser and beat you if you were live streaming, let's say?
I don't know the hard specifics of the implementation they're going with. One cool thing, since this new service, Stadia, requires that everyone using it is connected to the internet, I hear they're going to come out with some cool features to kind of take advantage of that, such as allowing for, maybe they allow your friend to just hop in and help you at a moment's notice and take control, kind of. Things like that. Since the image is being processed over in Google's server farm, and there's very little overhead to just send that image to multiple people at once, you could have streaming built in. I think YouTube integration is a fundamental part of Stadia.
Going back to what you said about just a friend jumping in, how much Call of Duty Zombies did you play?
Enough to feel familiar with it.
Okay, when you got the crew together, all 4 of you, and you were going for the Easter egg ending, and you need everybody to play their cards right, and you're 3/4 of the way through the thing that'll get you the laser gun, and one of your comrades disconnects. Was there a way for that player to reconnect in that game?
Oh gosh, I don't really know.
To my knowledge, if you disconnected in a game of Call of Duty Zombies, then the 3 remained. It was just the folks left. You couldn't hop back in where you disconnected. I think
now you're at a handicap.
Right. If Stadia has this live internet integration, whatever, and could afford players the opportunity, if they disconnect for whatever reason, time, your session timed out, and your party's just hanging out there, and the disconnected player's model is just stuck, the system would allow for that player to refresh and get back in with a more stable connection or whatever. That's something to consider. Stadia would instantly be very appealing if I were that type of gamer that were going into dungeon runs and whatever game. Right.
And I think it's fair to say whatever version of Stadia launches later this year will not be the version of Stadia we have 2-3 years from now. It's going to almost certainly
it'll be able to run
evolving.
on your calculator.
Right. It's exciting times we're living in, as I stated earlier already this podcast.
All right, let's move on to another news.
There's a lot of news, yeah. Shall we talk about our new favorite PC games storefront?
I mentioned how I wanted to buy Frostpunk on Steam because it was on sale, but I don't think I'll ever open Steam again because the Epic Games Store has everything you need.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the Epic Games Store is apparently going to have Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, and Beyond Two Souls, so I can get all the David Cage I want Whereas
The
previously,
Quantic Dream trifecta.
yes, the trilogy of sadness. It was previously only available on PlayStation, which I have never owned, nor anyone in my family has ever owned. So this is just living the dream come true. What Epic Games coming in strong. Everyone picked this up. Everyone. You know how many friends I got lined up to play Detroit when this game comes out on PC? Okay. Epic Games is on PC, right? The game store, right? It's just Steam.
It is a Steam competitor on PC, yeah.
Yeah, so it's effectively coming out for PC. Is Detroit Become Human already on PC?
It is not.
Right. So okay, this is I'm huge happy.
Yes, what Epic Games is doing here, lining up these interesting exclusives, is very cool. Somehow they've targeted like these second-party Sony-partnered studio games that have been exclusive on PlayStation for a long time. We just talked about Quantic Dream. 3 of their games are coming to PC for the first time. Heavy Rain came out in 2010, I want to say. So it's been 9 years almost. And 9 years of only being a PlayStation exclusive. So that's kind of a big deal that's coming to PC now. And it's not just Quantic Dream games. Epic Games also got Journey, which is also used to be a PlayStation exclusive from that game company. And now it's a PC release because it's on the Epic Game Store. So they're targeting, PlayStation exclusives, which is kind of funny. Former PlayStation exclusives.
It's great for me.
They are also firing shots at Steam here with some of their other exclusive deals. I have a list here of all sorts of Epic Game exclusives, some already out, some coming later this year. I'll rattle off the really significant ones. Heath, you remember when we were watching the Game Awards last December, and we saw the announcement of Obsidian's new game, The Outer Worlds.
Oh, yeah, Fallout.
Kind of a Fallout-looking game. Yeah. Well, that is now not coming to Steam anymore. It is an Epic Game Store exclusive.
Interesting.
Other examples are, as of last December, all future purchases of Telltale's The Walking Dead, the final season, are now exclusive to the Epic Game Store. Which, I mean, okay. Other ones, let's see. Are you a fan of Alan Wake or Quantum Break by any chance?
I will get Alan Wake because that was the Xbox's golden boy, wasn't it?
A very cool psychological thriller game. Kind of like taking lots of inspiration from Twin Peaks and Stephen King.
Yeah.
Well, that studio, Remedy Entertainment's, their upcoming game Control is now also an Epic Games exclusive game. And the last, Supergiant, this was the first one that came out along with the announcement of the Epic Game Store. Their upcoming game Hades is an exclusive game. Metro Exodus, that's been a big one. And the last one I really care about, After Party from the creators of Oxenfree, that has been gobbled up by the behemoth that is the Epic Game Store as another exclusive.
Yeah, you mentioned Metro Exodus and how I sent you that story about it's selling. It's already sold better than Metro Last Light did on Steam, the previous Metro game.
Yes, I found the article. It states that Metro Exodus has already sold 2.5 times more copies on the Epic Game Store than Metro Last Light has sold in the same amount of time on Steam.
So I feel like the Epic Game Store and Steam are like on the opposite sides of the street, and Gabe Newell, the CEO of Valve, or not CEO. I don't know. Just Gabe. You know who Gabe Newell is. He's standing out there on the sidewalk, arms crossed, looking at the Epic Game Store guy. Is there an Epic Game Store person?
No names come to mind, but I'm sure one exists.
All right, so Fortnite Man is out there on the sidewalk, and he's like, "Come on down, we got all the games you want." And the Epic Games Store is like small mom and pop looking shop, whereas Steam is like this skyscraper. And Gabe is like, that'll never work. But people are lining up at the Epic Game Store, and it's like, ooh, They're coming. They're coming with their wallets.
How does this make you feel, Heath? Are you like pleased to see increased competition on PC game distribution platforms and like, yeah, I'm rooting for the underdog here. It seems like things are working well for them. Or does this upset you in any way?
I have gotten many a family member and family friends on Steam. And Steam has been there to provide me with the Jackbox games when I was in college and made it so that I could play and make new friends. And I am indebted to them for that. But Epic Games is likewise providing me with Detroit Become Human, a game that I already would have introduced to many a friend if I could have just pulled it up on my laptop. Is there any Mac integration with the Epic Games Store?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, might just be on Windows. We'll see. Anyway, how do I feel about it? I feel like I have two stepdads, and they're both very nice. Just one of them's newer. Yeah, Epic Games is providing me with previously. I mean, this is nothing new. Bastion was available on the Epic Games Store, and I have yet to download that just because it wasn't appealing enough at the time. There were other things I had to do. But this, I will most certainly make an account to get that sweet David Cage. So kudos to them. They found a way. They got me. I'm a big fish, and I'm biting.
I have a conflicting hot take I'm about to make.
Uh-oh, don't rain on my parade.
I'm going to start off with the good here. If it's true that Epic Games is bringing games that would not have otherwise come to the PC platform, and they've, through some sort of agreement or deal or payment they've made, have allowed those games to be ported, that's a good service they're providing. Also, the fact that they're giving developers and publishers a larger cut of the game sale purchase whenever anyone buys a game from Epic Game Store, they give them a higher percentage
right?
of the funds. Yeah, I think the Epic Game Store only takes a 12% cut compared to the traditional 30% cut.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So that is a very developer-friendly move to make. I applaud them for that. The disappointment and frustration I have comes purely from a selfish consumer standpoint. Which I mean, it's fair for me to make because I and the majority of people out there are not developers. They are consumers playing these games. So I think that's a valid criticism to have. One criticism that has been leveled at Steam for many years is that it's almost too successful. It has a monopoly on distributing video games on the PC, which, yeah, it definitely has the majority of the market share. There are other options out there like GOG.com.
What about Origins?
Or EA Origin or Ubisoft Uplay. All these other platforms still exist on the PC, even if Steam is the big one. So one thing you could say is that the Epic Game Store is just, it's a good because it's bringing more competition to this marketplace. But my counterpoint to that is it's not the competition you want to have. It's not so much competition if they're removing your ability to buy games in other places and just presenting it in one place. That's not competition so much as we have one monopoly to another monopoly.
It's just like it's just parallel. It's like the Berlin Conference where they divided up Africa among the Western powers.
As a deep cut as that is, yeah, I think that analogy applies.
Yeah, so Steam is like, you take South Africa and I'll take the Congo.
What's good about competition is it gives the consumer more options, but the Epic Game Store has not been giving consumers more options. It's only been removing options. They're saying, no, even games that have been available on Steam for a certain period of time, they're removing those options and actually delisting them off of Steam and other platforms as well. So that's not great. That's not a great way to go about making yourself different. Also, okay, let's say everything else is being equal And sure, some games are exclusive to the Epic Games Store. That's all fine and good, except as it currently stands, the Epic Games Store is lacking some pretty essential features that are present on Steam. There's no achievement system on the Epic Games Store,
Oh,
but
who
Steam
cares though?
Steam has lots of achievements.
So
I care a great deal about that, and I think a significant portion of people who play video games are like me and do care about achievements.
okay, the only thing achievements have done for me is just made me look at them, realize I haven't beaten Civilization with Germany yet, and then just inspire me to fire up that game only to wrap it up 150 turns in.
And I'd say that's a good thing. It's compelling you to play a game in a way you haven't previously.
Yeah, but it's as far as deal breakers, not having achievements is so low.
Okay, so it varies on your personal priority list. It's up there for me, and I'm not alone in thinking that way. At least I believe that to be the case.
Okay.
Steam is the more mature, robust platform, and Epic Games can certainly try to catch up, but they're not there yet. So removing my ability to play the games I want to play on the more fully supported platform is disappointing, and I don't like it. And I'm relieved to find a quote from a representative of Epic Games from, I believe it was stated at the Games Developer Conference, which is happening or just wrapped up, that they said that this strategy they're taking of acquiring exclusives is not a long-term strategy for them. It is a
Grab and go
blitzkrieg approach that they are using to make a name for themselves and garner attention in their early days, but I don't think it's going to be a fundamental core tenet of the Epic Games Store years into the future.
That's good.
That is good.
We will, with bated breath, watch as I make my Epic Games Store account. I will think to myself, "Oh, you better not just become Steam too."
I have a quick news story that is
Are we breaking?
The polar opposite. Oh no, this is not breaking news.
Okay.
So we just talked about a store on PC limiting your ability to purchase games. Let's talk about expanding your ability to purchase games, where this very interesting news from Microsoft came out a couple days, if not weeks ago, that they are porting the Halo Master Chief Collection to the PC, and it will be available for purchase on Steam. I guess the Epic Games Store did not line up that exclusive.
One heck of an exclusive, though.
Yeah, so when we think Microsoft and their foray into video games, what franchise before any other comes to mind?
Fable.
Okay, get out of there with that.
No,
what's
honestly,
the real answer?
all I think of is the Microsoft Studios logo that comes before Fable. Dude, I never played Halo.
Oh, right. You're the wrong person for me to ask.
Yeah, I think
Halo is, without a doubt,
Destiny and Fable.
Halo is without a doubt Microsoft's biggest first-party franchise. It's the game that has probably convinced more people than any other game to buy an Xbox console. And now, this isn't unprecedented. I believe Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 came out for PC, but we're talking about 2001 and 2004 respectively here. It's been a long time. Ever since then, Halo games have been only on Xbox consoles, but that's all about to change, because the Halo Master Chief Collection, which originally debuted in 2014, and is a compilation of Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, Halo ODST, and the new announcement that it's also including Halo Reach when it arrives on the PC. This whole library of mainline Halo games, every single one with the exception of Halo 5, is going to be available on the PC. And that's crazy.
Why?
Because, okay, so Microsoft, they had this initiative going back to, it started with in, I believe, 2016. They called it Play Anywhere. And it's a pretty consumer-friendly thing where if you buy an Xbox game digitally for certain games, you get a copy on Xbox and you get a copy on the Windows 10 store for PC. You get basically 2 for 1. And I took advantage of this for Gears of War 4. bought it once digitally, and I could play it on my Xbox or my PC. It was sweet. It shows Microsoft has a very different strategy when compared to how Sony treats its first-party exclusives. Sony keeps them in their walled garden. They don't let them go anywhere, except, I guess, if you're the Epic Games Store, they're starting to peel them off now, years later. But in the case of Microsoft...
wait, Nathan Drake is like, please, let me go out and see the world. And Sony's like, no, you stay in here, Nolan North. And then Kratos is like, I think I see a bird. And then Sony closes the curtains.
Microsoft, on the other hand, if they're bringing their biggest, most prominent franchise to not only PC, not only the Windows 10 store, which they have direct control of, but to the biggest competitor for PC games out there, Steam, I think any Microsoft franchise is fair game to be put on PC. When Halo Infinite releases in the next couple of years, whenever that is, I would not be surprised to see a day and date simultaneous release on Steam. I think that's not out of the question. And my question to you, Heath, is if Microsoft is showing this willingness to abandon the exclusivity of their first-party franchises and put them into the hands of as many people as possible across different platforms, and even these rumors, it seems, have turned out to be false, but there were talks of certain Xbox Live games being playable on the Switch in the future. Microsoft and Nintendo were kind of seemingly becoming cozier together.
Right.
As Microsoft is expanding the number of platforms their games are on, do you think that indicates that Microsoft is turning itself from a console manufacturer, a hardware producer, into more of a brand that is just ubiquitous and present everywhere? Do you think Microsoft might be
Give me an
hedging their
example of
bets?
a brand that's ubiquitous and present everywhere.
Okay. For many years, decades
Like
even,
Bethesda's
Sega.
Skyrim?
I was going to say Sega was a console manufacturer, and they ditched that game. I think the Dreamcast was the last one they produced, correct?
Yeah.
Now, instead of creating Sega games to promote their Sega consoles, they stopped making consoles. They just put their games on everything. They make Sega games for the PC and Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. I suppose you could say, they saw by putting their games in more places instead of just using them as an incentive for people to buy their own hardware, they could make more money that way. Do you think Microsoft, this is like the early indication that Microsoft might be going down a similar trail?
Well, okay, if that's the case, Sega had Sonic. What does Microsoft have? Viva Pinata?
I would say they have
Did you ever
Master
play
Chief.
Viva Pinata?
The Rare game. No, I never played it.
But you saw the commercials for it.
Yeah, it's very distinct.
All right, what were you going to say?
Microsoft has Master Chief, and they have Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah,
Those
Gears
are
of
their
War,
icons.
Halo. They got
Forza.
Forza, they got Sea of Thieves, right?
They do, yes.
They got
own Rare.
Cuphead.
I think Cuphead is more of a second-party partnership, because Cuphead is now coming to the Switch, actually.
It is?
Yes, that was a pretty recent announcement.
Okay. No, because I think that the next Xbox console is still gonna do fine, and with that confidence alone, I don't think they're gonna make the switch to just games until the Xbox 2 dies.
You think it's possible this next generation of Xbox consoles could be the last?
No, I'm saying that Microsoft is not going to make the Sega Switch the change from consoles to just games until their consoles are no longer profitable. And if you tell me like to pick the year when the Xbox blank is no longer profitable, I don't think anybody could pick that. The Xbox is so ubiquitous with video games, I don't think it'll ever not turn a profit.
I see. I agree. It's almost certainly turning a profit. What I'm wondering is if it's not profitable enough. So this generation, it's no secret that Microsoft is in a distant second place behind Sony. It's being outsold 2-1, if not more.
True.
I'm wondering if, obviously, Microsoft is going to take another stab at it with this next generation. The hardware is probably being finalized as we speak. But I feel like if next generation goes similarly to this one, Microsoft might begin thinking that instead of being a distant second, they could stand to make more money by getting out of the race, cutting all the overhead costs of actually R&Ding these new consoles and having to manufacture them, and just get into that pure profit scenario of only producing software and producing it everywhere.
I think that would ultimately be better for us consumers, but you said they're taking a stab at it with this current generation. I think Microsoft is going to go the way of a serial killer and just keep trying to make a stab with each generation, because why not? There's the margin for error is so low. They are in second place right now, and I think they're just going to keep trying. That's what I think. I think you're wrong.
Very
Fight
good.
me.
That's all I had to say on that.
Take off your shirt right now and fight me.
How do you know my shirt is not already off?
Hey, I'm looking at this Google image. What the heck is Scalebound? Am I excited for that?
If you're excited, you should ratchet that down, because that game was canceled about 2 years ago.
Oh, but I thought they were bringing it back.
Oh, so there are rumors of a resurgence.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole.
Big rumors. Let's date ourselves so hard.
Scalebound was going to be a Microsoft Xbox exclusive, a collaboration with Platinum Games, your favorite team that is working on Bayonetta 3, Astral Chain, and seemingly a billion other projects all at once. It was canceled in early 2017, I want to say. And there are rumors that Nintendo is resurrecting it with their stellar reputation for collaborating well with Platinum Games.
Okay, so it's not. It is canceled. Okay.
It is officially canceled, and no word yet if it's being resurrected. But some certain industry insiders said they heard whispers of it coming back.
Yeah, that it could return as a Switch exclusive as of February.
Yep.
Oh, but then they poo-pooed it. Oh, okay, never mind it. All right, let's. That was the Halo hour, right?
Yeah. Moving on.
Let's just do a quick shout out to Obra Dinn that won top honors at the Indie Game Awards or whatever awards that was. Just trying to rectify that I know what games are good. Shout out.
I believe it is the Independent Games Festival.
That's what it's called. Yeah. And then shout out to What Remains of Edith Finch, the game you debuted last episode that got added to the Xbox Game Pass. Do you know what the Game Pass is? Is that just a different Games with Gold?
It is it's actually a very good value. It's a service Microsoft created, $10 a month. It's not a streaming service. You actually get to download games. It's kind of like a Netflix for games. There's a certain rotating list, a pretty robust one, where if you pay $10 a month, you can download a game to your Xbox and play it for as long as you're a subscriber. What's so cool about it is that Microsoft puts all of their exclusive games, I use exclusive with air quotes because their games are going more and more places every day. Like day one, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you could be playing Crackdown 3 when it releases, or
on the toilet.
Yeah, or the Forza games. Probably when the next Halo comes out, it'll be a day one addition to Game Pass. I'm surprised you haven't heard more about it.
Yeah, as an Xbox One owner. Well, I don't do much of my gaming on Xbox anymore.
I wanted to elaborate slightly more on the award ceremony thing you mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
In addition to the Independent Games Festival that took place, there was also the Game Developers Choice Awards. So
I know where this is going.
If you were not already aware, there are several Game Awards ceremonies throughout the year. The one that gets the most eyeballs is the Game Awards, which happened in December. We covered it plenty. This one is obviously not as in the limelight as that one, but you could make a pretty compelling argument that the Game Developers Choice Awards is maybe the more authentic award ceremony for video games because it's chosen by people who are specifically game developers. People in the industry making games are very well informed.
And even they could not deny how freaking amazing God of War 3 was.
You mean God of War?
Oh yeah, did they drop the
God
3?
of War 2018.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Which took home the Game of the Year according to the GDC Awards. Just to throw some more praise behind Return of Obra Dinn, that took home an award for Best Narrative.
Yay.
And the other two awards that stood out to me as being interesting, I'm not going through the whole list. Mobius Tube's favorite, Into the Breach, took home Best Design.
Oh, what a category.
And the funniest one, the Innovation Award went to Nintendo Labo.
I mean, yeah, that feels like the award was made for it. Just to catch
kind of.
all those.
So those were the highlights of the GDC Awards. Very cool. I like to see what they come up with.
Last bit of news. Oh, wait, we should talk about how, okay, is Stadia for us gamers, or is it for, like, casual boys?
Google is marketing it as the next gaming platform for everyone.
Okay.
Which makes sense because they probably want as many people as possible playing it.
Because they put the Konami code on the back of the controller, and
okay,
there was enough reason to be like, what is this? Is this try to curry favor and be like, yo, what's up, fellow kids? We know games. We put the up, down, down on it. Buy our platform.
Before I could definitively say who it's being targeted towards, I'd have to see like what its selection of games is and how that system works. If it's only... So the games they've announced for it definitively are Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a game that's been out for months now, and Doom Eternal is coming. Depending on how robust this catalog is and what games are specific to it, I guess that would kind of dictate who the audience is.
What if it's like
it's mostly...
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if it's like the perfect balance of like really niche thing and then really casual thing, and you can't make heads or tails of it? Like if it's like Fire Emblem such and such and Clash of Clans.
Yeah.
Which...
Now I'm envisioning... This is what I hope Google Stadia turns out to be. I hope the advertising campaigns are just pushing like, I don't know, Candy Crush, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty. They're going for the lowest common denominator. They're trying to get you through the door. And then, once these people have subscribed, after they've like been playing it for a week or two, the front page, all that mainstream stuff goes away.
Wait, where did my Fortnite go?
They hit you with the Nier Automatas and the Danganronpas right off the bat and convert everyone into niche Japanese video game fans overnight.
What is this Yakuza? What's the new one going to be called?
Judgment?
Yeah, it's like God's Judgment or something. God's Eye?
In Japan, it's Judge Eyes, but in the West, it'll just be called Judgment.
Okay. Yeah, where did my Candy Crush go? Oh, that's funny.
Did you want to dive into that really weird news headline about Judgment?
Yeah, okay. So, Chris, all right. Okay, it's 2019. Oh, okay. Well, hold on. This is going to be our last news story. So let's just do a quick time and place for another story. Disney is acquiring Fox right now, just for people who are maybe listening to this years in advance. Disney now owns pretty much everything They got X-Men. They got like Simpsons, Fantastic Four, things like that. You can the joke I made is you can count the things Disney doesn't own on one hand. So that's like the NFL and Fortnite. And what's the thing that you like that isn't owned by Disney, Chris?
I'm afraid to name something because chances are they own it.
Yeah. So that's just so a little bit of reporting so that when people aren't really sure when and what was going on at the time of this podcast. So let's get back into Yakuza. Friend of the show as a game. Chris is a Yakuza fan. I have only been exposed to it through podcasts, and I was actually informed of this scandal through the Castle Super Beast podcast. Chris, we're in 2019, and with 2019 comes the age of the continuation of the age of public shaming. You haven't been public shamed for anything recently, have you?
Gosh, I hope not. Unless one of these episodes of Mobius Tubes went horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah? Well, I don't think so, or we would have had to censor your voice or dub you. Yeah, we would dub you.
Our Twitter would have blown up, assuredly.
Yes. So think of like a celebrity, right? Think of like Mr. Rogers, okay? If it turned out that Mr. Rogers just like would like punch babies in his free time, I would understand the network that is maybe airing reruns of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I would understand if the network pulled those reruns to pay respect to the babies that got punched, right? That's like a good recourse for...
That's the honorable thing to do.
Yes. Now, same thing if we were to pick like another friendly figure. Let's say Bob Ross. Let's say Bob Ross, the painter, was just in like a money laundering scheme. Maybe that had some really unsatisfactory repercussions that would warrant maybe pulling his paintings from a certain museum, right? That would make sense, right?
Agreed.
Okay, so in Japan, drug abuse, like specifically like narcotics, is taken very seriously. In the United States and in Canada, drug abuse is kind of like you see it in movies and it's enforced. But if you, Chris, we don't do drugs, as you can tell. And we
I mean, I hit up those video games pretty hard.
Just injecting progression systems.
I need those
right
loot
in your
drops.
veins. Your loot drops, that's your drug of choice. Yeah.
Straight into my veins.
You joke about it, but maybe there's like a school counselor that, take it seriously. We joke, remember health class where you'd watch the video about the two boys that would smoke like 100% black tar heroin or whatever? and you'd
not really.
You'd laugh because like I've never seen a hard drug in my life, and I don't think that the typical Japanese citizen does either, but they are way more serious about it, about their like public figures. Actors and politicians go on benders in this country. They go nuts when they have access and maybe a sufficient amount of privacy. And in Japan, okay, this forward has gone on long enough.
Yeah, we haven't actually.
Do you know the
stated
name of the
here.
actor who got busted with cocaine and has since been...
Actor and musician Pierre Taki.
Yeah, Pierre Taki or Takei. He got caught with a small amount of cocaine, and copies of Yakuza Judgment have since been stopped, both physical and digital, in Japan. And they are contemplating making changes to the game when it releases in the West, in the United States. just because they're one of the motion capture actors who, by the way, plays a Japanese mafia coke fiend boss criminal man, got caught with cocaine in real life. Now,
you could say he was just embracing his role.
That's the joke. Yeah, of course. So it's obviously different from Mr. Rogers, who is like a family-friendly thing. Bob Ross, who, it's the appeal matters. Because this guy was not like the crocodile hunter or like a news anchor, he played a Yakuza boss, and he got caught with the drugs, obviously. So there's the legal ramifications are undisputed.
I'm reading right now that possession or use of cocaine carries a prison sentence of up to 7 years in Japan.
Okay, that's possession with the intent to, obviously not with the intent to distribute, because it was such a small amount.
Yeah, that would probably be even a more serious crime.
Yeah, so that's a discussion to have on its own. But the fact that who produces Yakuza?
It's a Sega-owned franchise.
Yeah, is Sega of Japan being like, we got to get this guy out of here just because they think that he's going to promote drug abuse among purchasers of this game?
I can't say for sure. It seems to me that it's a move to save face, and it probably seems a lot more severe if we were coming at it from a Japanese perspective.
Well, let's make it American. Say quarterback gets caught with steroids. Do you patch him out of Madden? That seems extreme.
Right. Yes, I agree that this seems extreme.
Granted, being a playable character in Madden is not equivalent to a performance that is in like Yakuza as a character.
Right. I imagine the work to replace the motion caption acting is going to be substantial.
Imagine if like the motion capture guy that did it for like Batman Arkham Asylum was committed of a crime. We can't have a criminal be responsible for Batman's punching animation. We got to patch that out. Make it a new punching animation. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I hear you loud and clear.
Mostly loud. But point being, Yakuza Judgment should come out in the US as is. It doesn't matter that Japan has draconian narcotics laws. Sega, you just release the game as is. Nobody cares that our drug lord was performed by an actor that just happened to have a drug abuse problem. That's what's up.
Very good. That news section was a whirlwind this week. Not depressing per se, but all over the place.
I was excited for it. I felt like that was going to be the bulk of the episode, but I was happy that you came in strong with your Pokemon impressions.
Yeah, my pleasure. And speaking of coming in strong, we received an email from Nate this week. And Nathan is looking to foster some very deep, meaningful discussion here when he asks us, Chris, Heath, what are some of the worst games you have ever played in your life?
Oh, in your life. Yeah, that adds more magnitude to it. I started trying to think of it as games I played recently, but yeah, I've thought of a couple of games.
Nate wants to know about the true dumpster fires, the worst things you've ever encountered. Why don't you lead us off, Heath?
The first one that came to mind for me was Need for Speed Carbon. You play any of the Need for Speed games?
I actually have zero experience with those racing games.
They're fun, especially this one that had cool mechanics such as like drifting. Or no, sorry, every racing game has drifting. This had drafting, where if you got really close to the car in front of you, it would cause like a aerodynamic effect that would just launch you past them. And then the most fun about Need for Speed games is alerting the cops, getting a really high wanted level, and then escaping to like a cooldown area. And that's what most of my time playing that game was. However, the main story of Need for Speed story is a racing game. Is there are like 3 boroughs. It's kind of like Crackdown. And if you win enough races and if you complete enough obstacle courses, you'll alert the attention of the crime syndicate in the borough. And if you beat all the lieutenants in the borough, you'll be challenged by the boss of the syndicate. And boss battles take place, I think, once in the streets and then once in like the winding hills of this city. Like there's like a curving road around steep hillsides. So you know how those roads will have safety girders on the side that has no mountain. It's just like a sheer drop off. The point of the boss battle was to knock the boss over the edge of these winding roads that have very weak supports that would otherwise send them falling to their death. And I could never beat the boss. I tried so many times, this first boss, to send him over the edge, and I could never beat him in the cliffside sections. So all I did with this Need for Speed game, and I probably put like 100 hours in it, was just alert the cops, escape the cops, and I remember the cover art really well just because I enjoyed playing it. But yeah, Need for Speed Carbon just fell apart. There's I only played a third of that game. It's so disappointing.
Very good.
Do you want more?
Hit me, yeah. Keep going.
I got New Super Mario Bros. Wii U. So after completing Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, I was on a freaking feel-good high because Treasure Tracker is a banger of a game. It's so easy. It's just like you're blitzing through these isometric-looking puzzles with Toad and just crushing it. It felt so good to just get like quick little challenges from these levels. And then you hop back into Super Mario, which is a platformer, and Super Mario Wii U, which is like a 2D platformer. I don't know if I was just spoiled by Treasure Tracker being exactly what I wanted. I felt that the Super Mario... How many Super Marios have you played? Obviously the old ones, right? Like Super Mario World.
I played 64. I played Galaxy.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm not
Odyssey.
talking about like the 3D boys.
That might be it for me.
Oh, okay, so like you didn't get any hands-on with the 2D ones?
Not really. Like, I played some of the original on the NES in my grandpa's basement, but never more than a couple levels there.
Oh, weird. Because I played like the first new Super Mario Bros. On the DS. So those were great. But this one on the Wii U was just so slow and clunky. And I actually had a hard time progressing. Even though it had all these like quality of life things I would introduce, like starting the level with an invincibility star, or starting it with like a small Yoshi that you could grow into like a big Yoshi by feeding. Nothing was grabbing me. Levels felt like really the same even after I got to the desert world, the ice world. Even beating the level felt like, oh, thank goodness I won't have to go back to it. The only ones that were grabbing me were like the boss missions in the forts where you gotta beat like the Bowser Jr. of that world. That was fun, but otherwise, there are hundreds of Nintendo games I would put before playing new Super Mario Bros. Wii U. Get him out of here.
I too have brought 2 games to discuss. One, I rank this as the actual worst game I've ever played.
Really?
And it is this game that came out in 2016 called Zeros. And that is the word heroes with a Z on the front.
That's awful.
And it was a Xbox Games with Gold release, so thank goodness I got it for free in quotes. And if I truly don't like a game, I'm not going to stick around playing it for that long. Maybe I played an hour of this game, but it was like a kind of a top-down brawler-looking thing, and I remember having a very visceral negative reaction to it and bouncing off it pretty quick.
Okay.
Since I played it for such a brief amount of time, I don't have too much to say.
I wish I would
now this other game,
recognize it.
This other game I have to talk about, I wouldn't actually call it bad. I would call it mediocre, but I ended up creating a very unpleasant gaming experience for myself through my own fault.
What is it, a horror game?
And that is a game that came out in 2012 called Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning.
Wow.
Have you heard of this game, Heath?
No, you're pulling these weird picks.
It is it's a role-playing game with very arcadey, competent combat to it. Its gimmick is that instead of speccing into a certain class, there's a whole bunch of like hybrid classes to it. A lot of people like it. It had some prominent writers on the narrative or on the plot side.
That's good.
Like I think R.A. Salvatore was among them.
What do I know him from?
And I actually can't. I don't know the answer to that. I just know the name.
R.A. Salvatore was on this writing team? Oh, man. You remember R.A. Salvatore.
And this is an aside, but this game, I think, had something to do with bankrupting the state of Rhode Island.
That's funny. Wait, what's this game called again? Amalur?
Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning.
Is about depleting the finances of the state of Rhode Island?
I think that's a news story that happened. Because I think the game studio that made it took out a loan from the Rhode Island. They went defunct and never paid it back.
Oh, okay. In Providence, Rhode Island?
This is my recollection from a news story that I read 5 years ago or something.
Okay.
Anywho.
R.A. Salvatore ran off with the money.
Yeah, I'm sure. The first 10 to 15 hours of this game, I liked it well enough. I was having fun. Don't regret it. However, we talked about achievements earlier. This is one of those games that had an attainable achievement list. You could get them all. You could get 100%, and you wouldn't have to go crazy or anything. It was just a time-consuming affair. And when I was playing this back near release, I cared about achievements a lot more than I do today, to the point where I decided it would be a good idea to make myself miserable continuing to play this game past the point I should have dropped it
just to get
in order to get
achievements?
100%. And I did so. It took me 40 hours, I believe. So the back 25 hours I spent with this game, I was not having a good time.
Out of compulsion.
Out of compulsion. Out of an unhealthy need to see the numbers on my gamerscore tag tick higher and higher.
Yeah, that's big number go up. That's what I do.
Yeah, I fell victim to big numbers going up. And it soured my taste on this game. Which, if you ask people who've played it, they generally have pretty positive impressions of it. The gameplay was solid. The narrative was some of the most generic fantasy I've ever heard. I could not muster a single shred of caring about it. Well, so those were the two games that came to mind when I heard worst games I've played.
If you've played Kingdoms of Avalor, or what was the first one you mentioned?
Zeros.
If you've played Zeros, please write in and tell us how R.A. Salvatore's writing is some of the best you've ever experienced in a story, and how the beat 'em up mechanics in Zeros is laid the foundation for Smash Ultimate.
Yeah, I don't anticipate we'll be getting any of those emails. But if you do have an email for us, please send it to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
That's right, and I'll be on the Twitter.
Awesome.
I'm going to go to the Twitter.
That's a wrap for episode 12 of Mobius Tubes. Thank you for recording it with me, Heath. I thought it was a fun one.
Yeah, look forward to the next episode where I drop that game I've been playing.
I'm pumped for it. I feel like I've been sufficiently teased for whatever it could be.